like, you see, it's sort of like, investment into product development pipeline is real money, and it's someone else's money, and it means a lot to them because they're expecting dividends on those products being developed and turning into full service presentations to the market, which investors will depend on, allocate funds, and help to capitalize the existing ongoing concern. It's a huge deal. A pipeline of product development is the most important thing you can think of because it's someone's hard-earned cash, and they're depending on those dividends to sort of pay the rent of their family, their nephews, their nieces, their uncles, their aunties, their grandparents, their brothers and sisters, and every their neighbour. It's just a huge consideration, and to keeping things in check, there's real money going into the family store, to the family shop, and it's not a measly $40 million into building a product service offering through the browser-based Edge through Bing.com. It's not a measly $40 million thrown away. It's a step in the right direction, and it's on par with the product offering of the competitors to stay relevant. If they didn't put $40 million into it, they would seek to. It would be thought that they would not exist at this present moment. There'd be a risk that the search engine of the family store would be dead. A risk, probably a 100% risk. Copilot keeps it alive, and I think a step in the right direction. It'll be like, oh, you wear Reeboks, that's so 1990s, or you wear a Hypercolor t-shirt, oh, that's so 1990s, and oh, you mean you eat Cheerios? What are you, like 10 years old? Like, oh, you wear sneakers? What are you, like 15? Buy real man shoes. Buy some, get a pair of trousers. Get a polo shirt and some real leather shoes. Get some business shoes. Feel like what it means to be like a real man. And so I think it's just a lot of work to go into that full service offering and say, well, it's sort of like the internet 1, internet 2, internet 3 is born and dies every day. It's born when you wake up, and the internet dies when you go to sleep. So you got to pay money to host a website. It's considerable money, depending how much you have. Well, what about cloud? Well, you still got to pay, and someone has to risk the money setting up a server room and buying millions of dollars of servers, given that an X amount of people are going to pay their monthlies. Sort of like a storage shed. It's like, let's get into the storage shed business. It's like, where do you want to build a storage shed? Well, where the land's cheap, where you can construct a building on a cement floor. You have to construct a building, have access to power that's cheap. And that's kind of like where the current perspective is now. The $40 million is being spent. Okay, so you have functionality, all right? So what I'm trying to say is, it's gone cloud. It's gone browser-based. Okay. What about community guidelines and expectations and the regulatory perspective of the now going forward from this very day right now? going forward for the next 30 years, the next 50 years, the next 70 years, the next 90 years, the next 100 years, right now, today. And for the average person to say, I can hear you, but I don't understand you, means you're in the wrong room with the wrong people. I'm having the right conversation. You've got a set of ears that isn't educated to the lingo, that isn't educated to the jargon, that isn't educated to the viewpoint. And if you want to hang around, why don't you just hang around then? But let me just get my 2 cents in before the crushing weight of judgment, right, crushes me as an independent person. So I think doing things local, where the internet isn't born and dies every day. I say the internet stays alive from day to day. And how do you do that? Well, what about your web history, your browsing history, your phone calls, your text messages? This all goes into a hub that has access, a hub that's based on an encrypted partition hard drive at an address, right, where you live, through a PC or a console, right, that has access to a GPU that's even connected through a USB-C input. That's a high bandwidth input. Because instead of like, there's an expectation, or this is how it's done, this is how it's always done, this is how it was designed for. No, it wasn't. It wasn't designed. The cloud solution is a band-aid to a problem that's a larger problem that hasn't been even conceived in its essence yet. And what I'm trying to say is, you can't just build a warehouse on cheap land and plug in the power and plug in internet connection and solve computer science problems, applications that people use. For example, ordering a pizza to be delivered to your house or to be picked up at the pizza shop. That one task by the user, at this point, tasks as such depend on cloud technology. Basically, a cloud is a warehouse that's full of computers. Now, what I'm trying to say is that there's not enough electricity on Earth to power the amount of computers we need in 100 years, or even 30 years. There's not enough computers. There wouldn't be enough microchips, and there wouldn't be enough money to pay the bills for such a need when no one wants to pay. No one wants to pay for the full price because they want the corporation to absorb all the cost. People want to pay 10% of the full cost of their cloud solution. Now, people think, well, I order a pizza off my phone, off an app. That's not cloud. Well, it kind of is, because the app depends on a website, and the website is hosted by a room full of computers, and you call that a cloud. How do you tell people we've got 6 billion people on Earth? Encrypted money value is shooting up like a runaway train, shooting out like a runaway train, right? Because it's just money. Money has value. Isn't that cute? So you go from 6 billion to 12 billion, and you think everything's going to be dandy, especially when millions of people each day are starting to rely on cloud systems. So what I'm trying to say is, it's almost impossible. Some countries, you can't just put in a warehouse of computers. You just can't do it. You know why? Because the warehouse gets broken into. They steal the computers. So you have to work on a node, which is like a network of nodes.